Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another NoobHammer interview. It's live streamed this time with Terence Drew, who's been on the show once before, and he is back again. He has been rocking a double Corvus list for the last few weeks, months.
Yeah, it's been a few months between
Yeah.
tournaments.
Holidays, man. I don't even know what is it Saturday here? I know it's Sunday there, early in the morning. I'm confused, but yeah, a few months now, and I want to talk to you about it. It was actually really neat because it was the Rat Tournament 6, if I remember right, and you got to face off even against somebody who I've interviewed before on this show in the finals with a very interesting list as well. So tell us about the idea surrounding the list and how was the tournament and how are you? I'm sorry, how are you doing? It's really early in the morning there.
Yeah, it is. I've been up. Yeah, it's 1 a.m. here, so I've been up all day. I did the tournament today. I had to get up at 7 a.m. for that and drive an hour and a half just to get there. It's like you don't know Australian geography, so I'm in Footscray, and I had to drive to Ballarat for the tournament. And then after that, I was going back to the other side of Melbourne to hang out with some mates. And that was like another hour and a half drive, and then about 45 minutes, you know, just before midnight to get back home. And here I am, still awake, still hanging in there.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah, but the tournament's all fresh in my mind, so now's probably the best time to ask me about it.
yeah, I mean now would be the best time, right? Like you finished it less than 12 hours ago. So I mean,
Yep.
other than right after every single game, I don't know when it would be fresher, right?
Pretty much.
So go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just to answer your other questions. So the list. You want to know about the list?
I do, yeah. Let's actually switch over to the list right now. But I mean, what was your general game plan, right? Like we see, just for a real quick overview for everybody listening, it's a Redemptor and a Contemptor Dreadnought Castle, the standard that we see a lot of the time. He took some interesting tech choices, though, in some company events and some observators, but then also double Corvus Blackstars, which 400 points is not exactly a small tech choice. So, your previous list only had one Corvus in it, and your list before that had none. So why have you been slowly, like, what is the, oh, I loved the Corvus and now I need two? Like, what, I guess that's my primary question, right?
Okay, yeah. Well, look, to start with, my take on the Corvus, it's one of the better priced sort of flyers out there. It's only 200 points. You compare that to the other like Space Marine flyers, like the Space Wolf ones, or the Codex Marine ones. They're way too expensive. Nobody takes them. Like you'll never see them in a tournament unless it's a fluffy sort of speed bump list. But yeah, the Corvus, it's cheap and cheerful. It's got, you can pack it full of guns. It's got good troop transport capability. So it's definitely got its uses. I was hesitant originally to go more than one Corvus in the list because, like you had the 3-unit limitation previously, and then they cut it down to 2 flyers.
Yeah.
That's what finally motivated me to get a second one, because I thought, okay, well, now I've got something a bit more certain. They're not going to mess with that for a while. We've probably got about 12 months or something before they do something to make us buy more miniatures. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to buy all new models here soon, right? It's cool.
Yeah,
they're
pretty much.
they're gonna allow special issue ammo with storm bolters again, so now you have to go buy a bunch of storm bolters.
Well, thankfully, I've still got all my old storm bolters hiding in a bits box.
Yeah,
they're ready to magnetize and stick back on.
Good man. I'm glad to meet another like serial magnetizer, because when it came to Deathwatch, there was no way I was gonna put everything on there. We're having some viewers slowly trickle in, so I want to remind everybody we do these live streams because we want to hear your questions and get your feedback. So if you have any of those, including trash talking in general, please throw it out there. I mean, you could trash talk me, don't trash talk my guests, but
I can't see the chat anyway, guys. Trash talk away.
All right. Perfect. Well, Vandalex says, Anya Terence, about to go to bed here in Australia, but great game again today. Don't trash talk me too bad. So we'll get into the actual matches here shortly, but so double Corvus.
Yep.
You loved one. They lowered the flyer limit to 2, so you're like, well, let's grab the second one.
Yep. So to build on that, my thinking was it can work well as a troop transport. You know, I'm not just taking them, like, they're always going to have veterans in them. So they're a good way of just, you know, the veterans are its payload. You're taking them to take the veterans somewhere. You know, you could get them out further to an objective, so that way you don't have to have them sitting in the backfield. You don't have to spend CP on deep striking them. You know, nothing like that. It's, you know, when you go to the Corvus, it's 12 troop transport slots. You might as well use it. They synergize well with the lots of secondary objectives. I mean, mainly I like them for engage, because, you know, I used to take one Corvus and it was really handy for getting engaged. Like, I'd send it up one side of the board and then I'd have like some bikes or something do the others. But it was always like terrain could sometimes get in the way. With 2 flyers, you know, you're guaranteed to get that first turn engage. And yeah, hopefully you can keep it, you know, going from there. Sometimes that doesn't always work out though.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what they have, right? Like, you know, you don't want to run them back into a bunch of eradicators or something.
Yeah. Oh, look, the thing about flyers is that they're great against some lists. Like, there's a lot of lists out there that are very melee heavy. The Dark Elder list I faced in the second round of the tournament today, that was a perfect example of that. Had very little shooting. It had 3 Chronos, but I just kept the flyers, the Corvus, away from them. So they really had nothing that could touch them. And then I just kind of played them cagely, and then in like the last round of the game, that's when I just kind of swooped forward and sort of took out his back line.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, because he had a lot of racks sort of hiding in a big ruins. And yeah, like, I needed to take them out.
Man, that's beautiful. And it's like, I've said it again, I'm gonna do it one last time. All right, not one last time, but I'm gonna do it one more time. The Corvus is such an amazing model too. Like, that thing is beautiful. I love it. It looks like a stealthy, infiltrative, you know, transport, close air support flyer, which is what it is, and that's amazing.
It actually looks aerodynamic. It's, you know, it's got control surfaces. Like, you built one, like, it's got the flaps you can put up or down.
Yeah,
that's really good. I mean, compared to the other Space Marine flyers, they're just, you know, flying bricks.
Yeah, the Storm Raven or whatever, which is is like actually a brick with wings on it. Yeah. So you use them to get engage. Obviously, if you have like your Dark Eldar player, you were just saying you've got a bunch of racks in cover. You don't care because you've bought the the OPSEC array, so you can just ignore cover, which is incredible. So if they're hiding, that counts for. Does that count for dense as well? If they're in like forests, you just ignore that as well.
Oh, it says cover, so
Yeah, it does
I
say
interpret that.
the benefits of cover.
Yeah. So
As yeah, so yeah, you
as far as I know, that means you ignore Dead's cover as well.
yeah, it sure
But you
seems
know,
to look like that to me.
one other thing you got to watch out with flyers though is that uh, they can they themselves don't benefit from cover the same way that other units do. So like you can target flyers like from inside a ruin, and they can't shoot you back if you're on like the ground floor. You're not actually touching the ruin. You can if you can draw true line of sight through like windows or gaps or something. And yeah, Stuart used that against me
Oh,
to great effect.
like how
Yeah,
you can.
I thought it was nice and safe because he had like 3/4 of his army castled behind this big ruin, and like he wasn't on the ruin itself, but he was like using it to block line of sight. So I was like playing this cat and mouse game, waiting for him to sort of tow out with some units, and he'd shoot me, and then I'd shoot him. But no, then he just like, oh, by the way, you're a flyer, and yeah, you don't get the benefits of this cover. So, and see these windows on the ground floor? Yep.
Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons that like with my 5 Dreadnought list for Grey Knights, like I can just pop knights all day. Is because other than their small knights, they actually don't get to hide if I can see them. Like if I can true line of sight see them, obscuring does not work. It's the same kind of thing for flyers.
Yeah.
Like if I can draw
Yeah.
1 millimeter line from my model to yours, I can shoot you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something to watch out for. I mean, thankfully, you're only using 2 flyers these days. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a meta defining thing like it was, earlier this, last year with the bloody AdMech flyers.
Oh, did
The,
you hate that?
the orc and the AdMech lists that were just 6 flyers. Just garbage. I hated them.
JP says, hello there. I was lured here by the talk of 2 Corvuses. I think, is it Corvuses or is it Corvi? I think it's I don't know. But we are talking about the Corvus right now. We will probably continually bring it up throughout the course of this interview. So, yeah, I was gonna say, did you hate the AdMech flyers more or did you hate the Orc flyers more? Because I've fought both, and the Orc ones are just absolutely silly. 2D3 las cannon shots.
Yeah, they're disgusting in and of themselves, but at least with the Orc flyers, it feels worth it to blow them up. With the AdMech ones, they're not the worst thing in the army. But
Yeah,
they're the thing that's in your face, and you've got to deal with them while you also got to deal with everything else in the army.
Yeah.
So,
all right, fair enough.
yeah, but thankfully they're not top of the meta anymore. So
No.
it's funny. Yeah, it was funny how the FAQs and stuff came out, and then suddenly all the AdMech lists started disappearing from tournaments.
Well, yeah, I mean, they increased their cost army, like, throughout the whole army by about 15%. So now they have 15% less stuff. But, back to the Corvus, real quick. Yeah. I want to ask you, so you gave them the, like, anti-infantry loadout. You gave them the blast rockets. You gave them the assault cannons.
Yep.
You have no las cannons in here. I assume you believe that your Redemptors and the Cyclone missile launchers on your Contemptors will do all the anti-tank work that you possibly need. So you are keeping these for horde clearing and doing stuff like picking out racks from inside buildings.
Yep. That's what they're best at. Because yeah, the las cannon and Stormstrike missile launcher loadout is just way too swingy.
Yeah, I've felt that personally.
It's either they disappoint you when you need them the most,
Yep.
Yeah. So, and yeah, just the more shots you fire, the more consistent something is.
And I mean, what's really cool about the Corvus too is that, you know, they get the reroll ones from whatever battlefield role that you've decided, which is it's really hard to get flyers reroll wounds of any kind ever in this game, at least as far as I can think off the top of my head. So the fact that we can at least give them reroll ones against whatever you actually want to blast out of, you know, off of a backfield objective or whatever is pretty legit. So
yeah, oh, that's a great thing that Deathwatch just has going for it, because normally those auras, they only apply to core units and only within 6 inches of the characters, whereas with Deathwatch, they apply to all units all over the battlefield.
yeah, I think it's one of the reason our assault centurions are like actually kind of scary is we can deep strike them and then they can actually reroll wounds, which is pretty decent. So that's neither here nor there. So other interesting tech choices in your list. So you went for Vigil Unmatched, Nowhere to Hide. You've got a Captain on Bike. We see a lot of the Primaris Captain. I think that's mainly for points, but you went for all in on the Storm Shield, Thunder Hammer, Dominus Agents, Captain on Bike. I assume most of that is, first of all, he's toughness 5, he's super fast, and then that base makes him have an extra fat, like hot dog shaped aura. Is that am I kind of nailing all the points here?
All those reasons. And he's also cheaper than the Jump Pack Captain. So he's got almost like probably better mobility in some cases, because if you say you throw the White Scars chapter tactic on him for 2 CPs, then suddenly he's got a 20-inch movement and a charge.
Yeah.
So he'll get to where you need him to go. That's the big drawback I found with running the Primaris Captain. He's just too slow. So it's like sometimes you really need to get him somewhere else on the board.
Yeah.
You know, because he needs to get his aura, or you know, he needs to punch something in the face, or.
Well, with the Thunderhammer, anything he hits will know it, unless it's Black Templar and they're Tannhauser's bones. Sorry, I just I got rocked by those the last time I played them. Is all. I'm a little sore about it. I see you have the company vets in here and the servitors. I think that was another big change from your last list. Can you go ahead and
that's right.
tell us about that?
Yeah, so the last version of this list, the main difference was there was an extra veteran squad. So I was running 4 veteran squads, and you know, usually putting two 5s, or I think there were 5 or 6 in each Corvus. But I found that I didn't have enough units to be useful for objectives and for actions. So I decided to get rid of one of the veteran squads and just put in a bunch of little units that I could take. I mean, I could get the free, you know, slot units like the company veterans because I got a captain. I could take the servitors because I had a tech marine. So yeah, I had the slots, so I didn't have to tax my elite slots too much.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're like, the thing is, I've got threat saturation with all those dreadnoughts and the Corvus. You know, people are usually not looking too hard at the servitors or whatever, unless they're the only target, you know, or unless they're very objective focused. And
yeah. It's an interesting point that you brought up there. So obviously in a Dreadnought castle, our elite slots are very precious. But a often overlooked thing is that if you have a tech marine, you can bring a squad of servitors in a non-force org slot. So you effectively get a free slot. And then the first squad of company vets, I think you can always do that with anyway in any army. But it definitely works for Deathwatch, and that way you're saving as many elite slots as you possibly can, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that was definitely a consideration in list building because yeah, I'd already taken up 5 slots with Dreadnoughts, so but it all worked. It all works out. It's got good synergy there, and I know with the upcoming changes for like engage, you're going to need minimum unit sizes of 3. Well, the servitors have already got that covered. You know, they're 4, so I think we're going to see them around for a while still. You know, for a Marine army, they're still one of the cheapest
right.
little skill monkey units you can get.
Yeah, 30 points, hard to argue with when one of our one veteran with its base loadout is 20. So, let's see what else we got. Oh, I wanted to ask. So a lot of these Dreadnought castle lists, you see, they're running the OPSEC aura, Rights of War. You
Yep.
don't have that. Has that been a detriment to you in any games at all, or do you have so much withering firepower and so much threat projection that you don't really run into that as a problem?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a bit lately. Yeah, some of my opponents brought that up because I think maybe they've seen it as well in those sort of castle lists. Yeah, it's a pretty common thing in a lot of Marine lists, really. Yeah, there was some cases where, because I don't have a lot of OPSEC units, I just got the 3 units of veterans. I'd get little OPSEC units coming and sort of taking objectives off me temporarily. I have been leaning sort of on the withering firepower side of my list. So it's not a subtle list at all. It's just trying to kill everything, and you know, enemy units don't have OPSEC if they're dead.
I love that. Yeah, they don't
But it's
have.
definitely
Yeah, they have no attacks, no range damage, no obsec if they're dead.
yeah. But it's something I'm keeping in mind, and I might work it back into the list at some point in the future.
Cool. Still rocking the Vortex pattern auspicicator on your Tech Marine. Are there a lot of flying in your? No. Okay. I was gonna
No,
ask,
it,
like,
it it was not useful at all this tournament. It was complete dead weight. But I guess it might be. It was a better tech choice for an older meta like back when
Raiders.
yeah, Drakari, lots of raiders.
Yeah.
But now not so much. I don't know,
Um.
but these things come around again. Um,
Yeah.
but I might in future take that off and give him the what is it? The book.
The Tome of
Yeah,
Ectoclades. Yeah.
that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The reroll all wounds against one data sheet for one turn of shooting.
yeah, that's another one of our primo relics. So
Kind of a
it'd be
crutch.
like
Yeah.
yeah, like I'd like to work that back into the list, but I was only running with 2 characters, and yeah.
JP is asking how we feel about Dreadnoughts and the new weapon profiles from Tau, specifically, like the railgun. I was going to ask Terence that question exactly when we got to the Dreadnought area of the list. So if you hang in there, we'll talk all about that. So
Yeah, I got some thoughts on that.
but next up is your troops. So you have you have 2 6-man vet squads and 1 5-man vet squad. It looks like you so from reading this list, it seems like you keep as little stuff as possible on your backfield. You move up into the middle with all of your characters and your dreadnoughts, and then you have you are dropping troops in their back line with the Corvus, so you are just like overwhelming them with stuff. They cannot, the general idea seems to be like, it doesn't matter what's in my backfield because you can't get here. You have other things you have to kill first. Is that true? Is that a general idea of what you're doing?
Well, the thing is, the army can be played that way. I tend not to play it that aggressively.
Aw.
Because yeah, when you do that, you tend to it depends on the opponent, really. If they've got troops in reserve, I've got to keep that in mind because I don't want stuff just coming in my back line and stealing my backfield objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like the earliest I can drop troops out of the Corvus is sort of turn 2, unless I want them in my own deployment zone, which sometimes is the case.
Yeah.
So yeah, usually it's great to keep like these assault-centered units inside the Corvus and just have the Corvus up somewhere. It can't be charged by these foot-slogging enemy units. If you don't put it somewhere silly, it's probably not going to get shot down. And yeah, you can just do a nice charge, 9-inch movement out of the Corvus and then a charge. So they can cover some pretty decent distance that way.
Yeah. That's a lot of like the transport stuff. When I've been talking to way more experienced players than I always forget about the 3-inch disembark. I always forget. So to me, I'm thinking like, okay, a Rhino moves up. Who cares? The next, like maybe it like hopefully will survive. And then I'm like, oh right, my 6-inch moving infantry now actually effectively moves 9, and I always forget that. That's a lot of extra movement, 50%. That's huge, right? So, and also flyers. I was reading through the LVO packet through some of their decisions, right? Like folks ask questions, and in there I was reading, based on the core rules, unless even if a flyer is charged by other flying units, they can still just leave with a normal movement. They don't have to fall back. They just no. I mean, it's supposed to be a battle that's they're both still moving. It's not like they're stuck and they're fighting, right? They're still flying through the air. So I get it, but I like always forget that as well. So you can't even really get a flyer, like you can't move block them really. They just keep moving.
That's one of the things that used to be so great about the impulsors, because they used to count as flying units. So people could not lock them down. Like, they just go wherever the hell they wanted. That was one of the really annoying things about flying units in general in 8th edition.
Yeah.
You couldn't lock them down. They'd just go wherever they want.
By the time I started playing, the Impulsor already had the repulsor field keyword and no longer had fly, but... Alright, so anyway, that was me trying to visualize how this list is actually used, and I'm told that is not exactly the way that it's used.
You were kind of half right there. So I tried not to be too aggressively, but, because if you play cagily, you can sometimes bait your opponent into coming to you, doing the wrong thing, exposing themselves, and I've got to watch out for those very melee-heavy armies because, for example, Drakari, they've got a lot of really nasty stuff. Like anything they charge at me will kill me.
Yeah, 100%.
It doesn't matter if it's Dreadnoughts, troops. Yeah, so I want to prevent that. But anything that I can usually shoot them off the board quite easily, given the opportunity. So I try to play sort of cagily. I do tend to take Oaths of Moment, so yeah, I probably take that too, more often than I should. It's easy points in a lot of games, but it's not always the best decision because it gets you locked into sort of going for the middle, and not too many scenarios have objectives in the middle. So unless you've got good sort of fire lanes, it's not always the best idea, but I do tend to gravitate with, Dreadnoughts in the middle of the board. That way they often have the best fire lanes, gets them sort of close to the enemy so they can sort of shoot or charge when the opportunity presents itself.
So I was asking because I noticed that these squads are pretty cheap. Like, other than the Black Shield, you are going with the cheapest units possibly can. So that's why I was asking about like threat overloads, right? Because even if you drop down a cheap unit in their back line, they still have to deal with it. They can't just be like, oh well, I'll ignore it. Unless they are winning so hard on the other side of the board that the game's effectively over anyway, right? So, like, I thought that was what you were trying to do, is like, we will go up there, drop these guys down like turn 2, turn 3, and force them to keep assets back to kill these things, even if they don't want to be doing that. So that's why I brought that up before we started to talk about troops.
No, that's... Yeah, I can see why you'd think that. You got to be careful though with the Corvuses because they're so much faster than everything else in the army. You can throw them 50 inches up the board, which is often where you want to put them sometimes to get those annoying units hiding in ruins. But yeah, sometimes you got to force yourself to play cagily and sort of keep up with the Dreadnoughts because most of the guns on the Corvus got a 24-inch range. With the loadout I've given them, they've all got a 24-inch range. Most of the guns on the Dreadnoughts, like the Redemptors, have a 24-inch range, except for the Plasma, which has got 36. So you've got sort of an ideal sort of range where you want to keep everything able to sort of gang up. You want to concentrate your forces. You don't want to get too spread out, like threat saturation, putting lots of units in the enemy's face and making them make difficult decisions and hoping they make the wrong ones. That's a valid strategy, but you've got to make sure that for proper threat overload, you're not just giving them units that are sort of close into their ideal range while they are happily ignoring your Dreadnoughts because your Dreadnoughts are too far away.
I gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. So it's not really like threat saturation right away. It's threat saturation over time.
Yeah. It tends to happen by turn 2 or 3 if I've played my cards right.
Very cool. See, I love having these talks because if you just read the list, sometimes you're not getting, or actually I'd say every time you're not getting the nuance, right? I consider myself pretty well versed in Deathwatch, and I still did not understand how you play this list, which we'll get into more when we talk about your specific matchups. But so now we're gonna get into your Dreadnoughts, and this is the most of the points in the army. We've all seen this. It's been around for a long time because Deathwatch do very well with this. All the rerolls to hits, rerolls to wounds, and then the 5-up invul from the Aegis. So I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. I do want to ask you, first of all, have you played on player optimized terrain, or do you play on WTC, which are known for like insane amounts of terrain? And if you do, how do you feel moving a giant castle of 5 Dreadnoughts and 2 characters around when there's so much terrain on a board these days?
Most of my games, I'd say, tends to be player optimized terrain.
Okay.
So like maybe 6 L-shaped ruins of different sizes and shapes, maybe a couple of forests. So usually like a couple of big multi-level ruins and some smaller sort of L ruins. Not really dense, and sort of nice movement lanes, that sort of thing. There's places where you can hide them. There's places they can move through. That tends to be all right. A big issue with that many Dreadnoughts is always trying to find places where that they can sort of get out of line of sight against the very heavy anti-tank firepower that you sometimes saw, particularly back when AdMech was dominant. Not as much anymore.
Laser chickens.
Bloody laser chickens. These days I'm not so much worried about hiding the Dreadnoughts, but actually trying to work around terrain to get line of sight on the things I want. Because sometimes, yeah, my biggest issue is I can't shoot the things I want to shoot because I'm big and chunky. I've got to go the long way around ruins,
Yeah.
and
That's why I
yeah,
asked this question, because when I've played this style of Deathwatch list, and I play a 5 Dreadnought list right now with my Grey Knight, so I effectively have the same problem, right? Like, you want all those guns going into more or less the same, 1 or 2 units. So you have to, and you have overlapping auras you need to think about and all that, and how exactly you're going to place stuff. And I found
yeah.
that the terrain has been my worst enemy, usually turns 1 and 2, while I figure out how I can get my guns on target. So that's why I asked. I also see you have the Cyclone Missile Launchers on the Contemptors. Did you just have a whole bunch of points left over, so everything got like Thunder Hammers and Cyclone Missiles, or were those there for like specific reasons?
Yeah, they're there for specific reasons. I've tried to I've been over the list and tried to find points where I could cut down. I turned a Primaris Tech Marine into a regular Tech Marine. I've made the veteran squads very cheap and cheerful. But yeah, the Cyclone Missile launchers on the Contemptors are one thing that I do want to keep. They add much needed anti-tank firepower. And with the auras that I'm stacking on those Dreadnoughts, more guns is
It's
more
good.
efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you're using like a Tech Marine to give the +1 to hit to one of them, like every gun on that unit is benefiting it, so you want to have as many guns as possible.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Aren't they 20 points for an upgrade? Like, they're not
20,
cheap at all.
25.
25. Woo! Woo!
25. Yeah, but they're 2 missile launchers,
Yeah.
effectively.
I mean, it's true, and it does give you extra blast against any kind of horde. Like, if anybody's out there running tiltless, like Gaunt Carpet or whatever, where it's like, I hope you brought enough firepower to deal with 100 Gaunts.
I have.
Yes, you have. You definitely have, with between all the blasts on the Corvuses, and you definitely have. So that I was just curious, right? Because I'm always tempted to click that upgrade when I'm building lists, but I always turn it down. I assumed you were giving the Tech Marine upgrade, and then with the reroll hits from the captain and everything, you're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. That's pretty reliable.
Yeah. Another thing with the Dreadnoughts is that, because of terrain issues, it is difficult to really castle them up tightly. And often if you do that, you're going to be running into problems of you can't get everything to shoot at all the enemy units. There's going to be stuff that's out of sight of some units. So I tend to sort of spread them out a bit. And I can use Wisdom of the Ancients on sort of one group to make sure that I've got all the auras that I need.
That's a great point.
I get great use out of that because, you use the Deathwatch chapter tactic to give, your reroll 1s against something that most of the army is going to be shooting, like maybe troops, whatever the Corvuses maybe want to shoot turn 1 because they can't get auras from anything else. They're never going to be close to your characters. And use Wisdom of the Ancients on a group of Dreadnoughts to get those reroll 1s against just whatever they want to shoot, which is going to often be the big threats because you need something. There's something that's going to be taken down with the macroplasma incinerators. It's not going to be something that the whole army wants to shoot. It's just something you want to get out of the way on turn 1.
Yeah, and I mean, firing all of your Dreadnoughts not at optimal efficiency is better than firing half of your Dreadnoughts at full optimal, right? So sounds like JP's leaving. Thanks for swinging by, man. Another reminder, just anybody out there, any comments, questions, trash talk, anything, throw it in chat. I'm sorry, JP. Now I'm gonna ask about railguns and all the D3+3 damage that we see coming out, so you'll have to just tune back in. Uh, so yeah, let's talk about some railguns, shall we? How do you feel about lists like this when you see previews? And granted, we haven't seen the whole Tal Codex yet, so I don't want this to turn into a run for the hills, you know, Death Watch is dead kind of talk. But you know, how do you feel seeing a new gun that can do D6 plus 3 wounds plus 3 mortal, up to 3 mortal wounds, and then, or no, 3 mortal wounds, and then ignores invuls for a -6 AP?
Yeah, I feel pretty scared for my Dreadnoughts. I think that every time, it seems like every time a new codex comes out, or sort of every second codex, it completely changes the meta, and you've got to adapt to that. So I'm running a lot of Dreadnoughts, you know, the 2 flyers at the moment, because there's not as much anti-armor showing up on tables. And if Tau end up changing that, you know, we've also got Custodies just came out. I haven't had a look at that, so I have no idea about that. Gene Stealers is coming out.
We should start.
Eldars started being previewed. Craftworld Eldar. They're going to be disgusting.
I think Tau. I don't know. We're kind of off base a little bit here, but that's okay. These have always been more of a natural conversation. So today is when the NDA for Gene Stealers and Custodies falls off. So we'll get a lot of leaks. We'll see the whole codex today, I'm sure. I know Tabletop Titans is actually doing a Orcs vs Custodes match today, so you'll be able to see the new codex there. I'm not really, the Custode stuff has been interesting, but doesn't seem necessarily super powerful to me. It seems good, but not, I mean, like Sisters was good, Death Guard was good, right? Those are all good armies, but the armies that have been doing exceptional, obviously Drukhari, Admech for a while, Freebooters Orcs, and like you were saying, the codexes that dropped that changed the meta, I feel it'll be Tau, Gene Stealer Cult, and definitely Eldar. Those fate dice seem insane to me, and that's just the fate dice. We haven't seen pretty much anything else. So I don't know. Tau, man, any of these castle lists, like my Grey Knight list, a lot of these Dreadnought lists, I don't know, because it's not even the railguns I'm worried about, because those big railguns can only go on their transports. We don't know how many points they're going to cost. That does mean that they can only bring 3 of them, though, because the Hammerhead is still rule of 3. It's not one of the normal transports where you can bring all of whatever transports you want. So we'll still only see a maximum of 3. We still don't know what their ballistic skill is. It might be 4, right? So 4 is rerolling. That's 75% of the time it's still gonna hit. And then you can still miss your wound. So anyway, I'm not worried about the railguns so much as I am worried about what the broadsides and the riptides might have, because I bet you they're gonna have a lot of D3 plus 3 damage railguns, and even though you'll get saves versus the big railgun, those are the ones that I'm really worried about, you know?
Yeah, my take on Tau is that I think that they're another codex where GW is going to overcorrect again.
Yep.
They're going to add mech it up, and then 6 months later, they're going to fix it with a FAQ.
Yep.
And hopefully they'll be a bit more sane, or, you know, they might disappear from the tournament scene altogether.
Yeah.
In the meantime, it's like every other codex that comes out is a big game changer. That's what it seems like. So yeah, I'm prepared to shelve my Dreadnoughts for a little bit if I have to, and I've got a lot of infantry. I got bikes. I got, you know, Vanguard veterans. I got Primaris troops. So I might try the Army of Renown.
I was just gonna ask
if it
that.
comes to that.
The Army of Renown seems really fun.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've seen them, but I have an interview with 2 players who have been doing very well with the Army of Renown out in the United Kingdom, and some really cool stuff there. So, yeah. I think we've gone over your list. There are no more questions in chat right now. I'm gonna remind everybody again, please ask any questions that you have, and then we'll. I mean, any comments at all about GSC or custodes, or maybe I missed something and custodes are gonna be disgusting. I have no idea. I mean, we'll just have to play into it and see what happens. So, let's get into your matchups here. Because this tournament just ended, I'll remind everybody that Terence was actually rolling dice 12 hours ago. I have no idea what your matchups were. It sounds like you had Grey Knights in round 3 and you had Drakari in round 2, but what was your round 1?
My round 1 was Imperial Fists.
Oh, those poor boys.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was more of a fluffier sort of hobby list. Had lots of fun units like it had tactical marines. It had
that's a man that loves his army.
It had the I don't even remember what it's called, the fortification, the new Primaris one.
What? I didn't even. Oh, the Hammerfall bunker.
The Hammerfall. He had a Hammerfall bunker.
Wow. Yeah, that was that man just loves. He loves yellow and just wanted like yellow out on the board.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So that was my warm up game.
Anything really to talk about there? I feel so bad for Imperial Fist players. Just like right now, they're so. I mean, into like meta armies, especially, they're just not holding up.
Yeah, they really got crushed at the end of 8th edition as well. Like they sort of got unintentionally nerfed when all the nerfs came through that were directed at Iron Hands, and they were just collateral damage. And now, they really need a new supplement or something.
Yeah, that's too bad because I like, I like yellow too. I think it's great, especially in this grim dark universe where, like, Deathwatch is a army of black with some like silver arms, and I think that fighting against bright colored armies is at least visually interesting. So I've never played against Imperial Fists, probably because they're all hiding right now.
Yep, but this guy was a dedicated Imperial Fist player. Yeah, he was bringing them out to a tournament, having fun.
That's good.
Yeah.
I saw you got 100 points, so.
Yeah, not much to say there. I got first turn, so yeah, I just kind of shot him mercilessly, and we only played about 2 turns, and he conceded. I'd almost tabled him at that point. So.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not much to say.
What mission was it? Just out of curiosity, and then let's talk about your secondaries. I know you talked about Engage and Oath of Moment a lot, and your third was you're holding out for like Stranglehold, or were you holding out for like Kill the Xenos, or?
Yeah, I think I took Raise the Banners.
Banners.
Yeah, so I wanted to have something. I had something to do with the skill monkey units. It's a good one to take in those missions that have got 6 objectives.
Yeah, for sure.
You get a lot of points that way.
Very cool.
And there was nothing about his army that really stood out to, take against him. You know, he had like one psyker. You know, didn't have that
Oh
many
man, he
vehicle.
even took a psyker, so he can't take abhor.
Yeah, I
So
know he was having fun with it.
yeah, I was gonna say he's clearly a guy who just loves that army. At the RTT I played, I actually played against a guy who he always plays firstborn salamanders, and he's kind of known in our area for always playing it. And like he actually introduced himself and then went on a Primaris rant about how much he hates Primaris. So I was like, okay, I've never played salamanders, let's go. And he was like a melee focused salamander army, which took me by surprise. It was a really weird list with lots of dreadnoughts, but anyway, clearly a guy who loves his army, kind of like that, wanted to put some models on the table, throw some dice, and have a great time. So let's
Yeah.
let's get into round 2 then against Dildar.
Yep. Okay, so round 2, we were playing Vital Intelligence.
Mhm.
So that one's 6 objectives, triangle deployments.
Yeah. Hold
Yeah, that
2,
was
hold more, and they're sticky. Right? So you
yeah.
can walk off of them, I believe, for Vital Intel. I'll actually look it up while you talk to us about the game.
Yeah, so that one. So he had a pretty typical, you know, current meta Dark Eldar list. You know, lots and lots of racks, lots of grotesques. He had some Kronos.
And some Talos.
Uh,
Big City.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
So Vital Intel, you can walk off of the objectives and you still hold it until your opponent takes it from you. So they're sticky objectives. But
yeah, didn't really come up that much in the game. He was like from the get go, he was a bit intimidated by my level of firepower, so he was really cagey about because he didn't want to come into the sort of middle objectives, and I sort of played very conservatively as well to try to bait him out. I sort of kept my Corvuses nice and safe. I didn't throw them too far forward. I was sort of just enough to sort of take the outer objectives, like sort of hover over them, and then the next turn drop out a unit of veterans to take them. I was also doing, I think, raised banners on this mission as well.
yeah,
I got some, got good value out of that. I think I maxed out raised banners by the end.
nice. Yeah, Vital Intel, it's hold 2, hold more, but it's sticky. But all those objectives in the middle are kind of close to one another, so it really benefits close combat armies, I think. And then it depends on the terrain placement too. I don't know. Vital Intel is like a mission where I hate it, but I think I hate it because I don't understand it yet. Because I talk to way more experienced players, and some of them it's like their favorite mission. No one likes the scouring, but people like Vital Intel, and I just can't crack it. Like, I don't know what it is. There's like something about it that my brain hates. So,
well, I'm a fan.
Nice. See, the more experienced players seem to really like it, and I'm just like, this sucks. It does seem to value going first, which is an interesting dichotomy compared to the other missions where, at least for my armies, I don't mind going second anymore as long as there's enough terrain on the board to not immediately die. I don't mind at all.
It is a mission, I think, that values going first because you get to sort of set the pace. If you go first, you can set when the engagement happens. So you can either push forward, take the objectives, force the enemy to come to you, or you can sort of be just outside the objectives and bait them to come and try to take them themselves and get shot the hell up.
Yeah.
Which is, it's pretty much what I did. I just tried to edge around. I just went up, I ignored the middle of the game, the middle of the board. I just went around the edges and just sort of cleaned up anything. Like, so we had groups of racks and grotesques trying to push up. And yeah, I just didn't let him get anywhere near them. And then he had 2 big groups of racks and a group of Kronos that were just kind of hiding in this big L ruin in his corner. And yeah, in the end, I just kind of circled around and shot them up with the Corvuses.
Man, the Corvuses are actually like uniquely good into that unit because you don't care about the -1 damage. Everything you're firing at them is 1 damage anyway.
Yep, they're all damage 1. I'm ignoring cover. I've got lots and lots of shots. I've got 3 different strength profiles, so no matter sort of how they're buffed, you know, I've got a strength 4, I've got a strength 5, I've got a strength 6.
Yeah, that's great. And like the Stormbolters, even strength 4, like, yeah, you're gonna wound on 5s, but you're probably rerolling 1s, which is nice.
If they've got a big unit, and these were 2 units of like 20. You know, if you can manage to fly over them, drop some bombs, that's a few more mortal wounds. Yeah.
Man, I meant to ask you about that specifically. Like when we were talking about the Corvi, I wanted to ask you about like how often do you use the bomber thing? Because it's not a stratagem, it just is on the data sheet. So like if you fly over something, you might as well bomb it, right? I always forget that exists.
Yeah, oh look, you don't get too carried away about the bombs because they're not good. They're not like the AdMech bombs or the Orc bombs. You know, they're maximum 10. You know, they're 1 shot per model, maximum 10 mortal wound on a 6.
Yeah.
So they're pretty slim odds. But yeah, if you've got a big unit like that, try to fly over them, do a bit more chip damage. Like sometimes every little shot helps.
And it does matter which army too, because like we're starting to see lots of feel no pains against mortal wounds. You've got Black Templar, you got Grey Knights. There's whatever that clan culture is for orcs that get that. I forget which ones. Is it Goths? I don't remember. Anyway.
Death Skulls.
Death Skulls. Yeah.
I think that's them.
Anyway, we're starting to see a lot of that, so that makes that even less valuable. The good news is, again, it's not like a stratagem, so you're not wasting any CP to try it out. But yeah,
they're definitely not making us pay points for it.
Right. So I love. So you are basically, I mean, in a way, you're almost. Not that I think Thick City has any hard counters, but like you're kind of hard countering them in a way because you know they want to move up, charge you, fire their meltas into things, but they have short range meltas, and you have flyers and very fast units or very durable ones at least. So like the Redemptor takes a hit or 2, you then heal it up on your next turn, partially at least. So even if he's getting all of those Melta hits in, you have so many Dreadnoughts. You know, it's like, okay, you killed 2. Well, there are still 3 to kill. Yeah, and if he charges the Redemptors and they live, they will kill something.
Yeah, the amount of armor in my list is really intimidating for a melee-focused Drakari list.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's like I've got so much shooting and I've still got melee potential. It's good for like not the same sort of melee potential that Drakari has, but I've got a good counter strike.
Yeah.
So yeah, the key really is to try to bait them out because they're gonna have to come for the objectives to score primary. If they're trying to, they usually take Herd the Prey. You know, like 90% of the time, Drakari take Herd the Prey. It's a good one for them, but it doesn't bother me because my Corvuses are going to go wherever they want. And yeah, like they're going to have to play cagely to not get destroyed by me. So yeah, they can't hurt me basically. They can't get me out of table quarters.
That's a great point, actually. I want to look up Drakari and their Herd the Prey because it does. Like, I know Engage is pretty much one of the only secondaries aircraft can actually score. But I'm wondering about Herd the Prey. Yeah, score 2 victory points that does not have any enemy units in it, excluding aircraft.
Yeah. But remember, the Corvuses are carrying troops.
Yes. I was just going to say that, which means like so I've only played against Thick City once. They only have a few units, and they want their Grotesques and their Talos and their Chronos backed up by that homunculus coming at your main army. So if you fly into their backfield, drop those cheap troops, and you've already like blasted off all like most of their stuff on the back there. So like they might leave a unit of witches or racks back to hold. You drop in there, take that back. Like what do they do? So now they have to turn around a grotesque unit, which will absolutely obliterate one of those kill teams, but they have to get it back there, or they have to leave it back there, which is good for the rest of your army if they're afraid to leave, right? I love that they like these Corvuses just let you be like all over the damn place, and if you're still loaded with troops, they're still a huge threat, and with their short range guns, they can't really deal with the Corvuses at all, unless you just put them in a really stupid spot, which is, that's what I would do.
No, I've made that mistake once or twice. I've like parked them on top of ruins or something with troops still inside, and then I have problems if they blow them up, and then it's like, oh, I've got nowhere to disembark my troops.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been playing with the Corvuses, more consistently. Learning the ins and outs, where to put them.
Such a cool model.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with them so far.
Do you find yourself using the Shroud Field stratagem at all to make them untargetable? It's very expensive.
It is, and if you're taking 2 of them, if you put Shroud Field on one, what's to stop them from just shooting the other one?
Actually, you can put it on more than one. There is no limit in the description of that stratagem. So if you really want to,
oh god,
you could spend 4 of your 7 CP to make both your Corvuses untargetable.
I'm not going to do that. I'd rather they just shoot my Corvuses.
Yeah, I'd rather that you just not have them be targetable. Like stick them far back.
Yeah,
it's not that big of a board.
Yeah, look, they've got a 50-inch movement. So yeah, I just tend to put them pretty far back.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, there's not as much anti-tank seems to show up on, tournament games these days. So
yeah,
they feel pretty safe turn 1. It's only when I, do risky things with them, get them close to the enemy, that's when they tend to die on me.
Yeah, I should play with them more. I really should. I've got one. I guess I have to buy another, huh? All right, so you're round 2. You just kept them on the back foot. So what did the middle of the game look like, and what did the end of the game look like?
Okay, so yeah, I got first turn, so I just kind of I spread out and sort of covered all the middle objectives. Like I didn't I moved for one objective with some servitors. Like I had to advance them out to get them far enough.
Who cares? They don't do anything else, so
yeah, pretty much. And then yeah, I just basically covered those middle objectives with my Corvuses and Dreadnought. Um, I tried to get line of sight to some units to shoot up. He had one raider. I wanted to try to kill that. Still didn't manage to kill it turn one. I my I really whiffed with my shooting. But yeah, I took out some little units of racks. I softened up some grotesque units. Like I just kind of whittled them down a bit, and they were still far enough away that they weren't going to make any charges that turn. Like you know how Drakari play, they tend to try to set up the turn two, turn three charges when they can advance and charge.
Yeah.
So they're pretty predictable in that sense. So you've usually got the first turn to sort of play around and sort of pick off some wounds where you can, and then really move into position. Yeah, like I said, I stayed out of the middle and just kind of moved up the flanks. Made sure to keep the Corvuses safe because I wanted to get good value out of them. Didn't get them too close where they could be either charged by the Chronoses or was it Talus? It was
They
one or the other.
they're built out of the same box, I think. Oh no, they're not.
Yeah.
No, they're actually very different. Anyway, yeah, it doesn't matter. They always have like two of one and one of the other, or two units of one and one of the other. Yeah, because they all get -1 damage and +1 toughness from the homunculus. So why wouldn't you? 7 wounds,
Yeah.
T7 -1 damage. Like,
yeah, they're pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it's not that bad when like you have so much 1 damage shooting. You have so much, right? Like and those Corvuses, the grotesques can't charge them. They have no ranged weapons. The Taluses only have like an 18-inch range Melta or something, so you can stay way out of range of those.
Yeah, he had I think he had a small unit of what are they called? The guys doing the Green Goblin impression.
Oh, the Hellions. Bam.
Yeah, he had a unit of Hellions. I made sure to annihilate them sort of turn one with one of the Corvuses because I know what they're like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen what happens if you ignore them.
The mortal wound swooping dive thing that they can do is really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and they can threaten my Corvuses.
So because they fly. That's right.
Yeah, so didn't want any of that. None of that at all. So yeah, I just kind of handled him. He had a detachment of Dark Technomancers as well. So some of his racks had shooting, like some of the smaller units, and I made sure to prioritize them. So I just basically took out everything that could threaten the Corvuses, took out everything that could threaten the Dreadnoughts at range, and then focused on the melee. And yeah, not that much of his stuff sort of made melee. He threw some units forward, and he had some units of witches. Like he had one in reserve that sort of came in and took my rear objective, and I just pretty much let him have it at that point. It just wasn't worth, messing with because I just ended up taking the other sort of the 4 middle objectives.
Gotcha.
That won me the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, if you're already gonna get 15, like losing your own doesn't matter unless they have some kind of special thing where. What's the mission? Is it priority targets, which already has like the best mission secondary in the game? But if you hold your opponent's and yours, you get like 5 points per round. If you just hold yours, it's 3. But
yeah, he just kind of went for it because he had the unit in reserve anyway, and the objective was out of the way, and it just had like 4 servitors babysitting it. So it was easy for him to flip.
What was the final score?
It was good. It wasn't I don't think I got 100 out of that one. I think I got 97 or something. Battle round 2. Yeah, I got 83 to 21.
Woo! That Dracari
So,
player was probably very happy.
He did not get many secondaries. I think, yeah, I only got 30 primaries out of that game, but he only got 5. So I just kept him off the middle objectives, and because it was a hold 2, hold 3, hold more, that one he held in his own deployment zone didn't really count for much.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I maxed out my secondaries. He had, yeah, to the last. So that's what his big units of Rax and the Kronos at the back were his to the last units. And yeah, I took them out in the end. Big thanks to the Corvuses there. And yeah, heard the prey he wasn't able to do much with. Retrieve Octarius data. Yeah, again, I killed too many of his units, so he basically couldn't do it. He got like 2 quarter. He got 2 quarters, so he got 4 points out of that. And but I killed all the units that could do it, so he wasn't able to do more.
Very cool. So yeah, you played the mission, and then you tried to make it as hard for him to play his mission as you possibly could. So it doesn't hurt that you're kind of just a really good counter to that army. So
yeah,
very neat.
Even if I wasn't, I had no idea about secondaries, my army just kind of killed his army. So yeah, that worked out in the end.
Cool. Wow, you haven't had a game at least a game that's been in Down Under pairings for a while. You did like Rat Trader 5 and then Rat Trader 6.
Yeah, it's been hard trying to get tournaments. Yeah, they've had a lot of cancellations and stuff due to, COVID.
Yeah. Who knew?
Yeah.
So then we'll get into round 3, which is kind of near and dear to my heart. So I have an interview with Stuart Trainer about his all-power armor. He brought a new version of that list. He had 1 Grandmaster Dreadnought. He only had 1, not the 5 that you see like I bring, because I am a total ham. But so he had 1, a bunch of power armor, and then you with your 2 Corvuses. I was hoping, and I joked with both Terence and Stuart on line. I said, man, I hope you guys meet up, and I wish I could be there to actually watch that game. So tell me about that game, man. How'd it go?
Okay. So first things first, yeah, we'd been anticipating this matchup all tournament. It looked like it was going to be a fun matchup if it happened. Yeah, we both started rocking our games, first 2 rounds, and yeah, it ended up happening. So we get to our table, we check out the mission and the terrain, and so first thing, Stuart looks at the terrain and he goes, no, we've got to move the terrain around. If we play on this table, the terrain as is, I'm just going to die. You're just going to shoot me to death, and that will be it.
Okay.
So I was like...
But it was player optimized terrain, or?
It was player optimized terrain, but because of the... it's... the mission was Battle Lines.
Ah, the 4 objective one? Yeah, let me find it.
Yes. 4 objective, and we're deployment zones in our from the short table edges.
Battle Lines, mission 22. We'll switch over to my browser here so everybody can see. Yeah, okay. So, huge deployment zones, like 18 inches. Yeah. 24-inch no man's land. Only 1 objective in each deployment zone, but they're like almost up to as far as they can be to still be wholly within your deployment zone. So you're already starting in a very it could be a very aggressive matchup.
It was. It was an absolute bloodbath. But yeah, he looked at the terrain. We had a bunch of L ruins, but they were set up sort of parallel to the table edges, and they were set up in a way that he looked at them and was like, "Yeah, if we play on this, I'm going to die because I can't hide my army effectively behind these ruins where they are. Like, there's no good ones in my deployment zone, or the big ones were kind of in the middle." He said, "Oh, if we were playing the Dawn of War style deployment, it'd be fine. But for this one, I mean, come on, man, you gotta let me move the train around." And I agreed with his assessment. It was gonna be a really one-sided match if we did it that way. So yeah, I let him shift the train around. We ended up sort of rotating them uh, like 45 degrees and sort of replacing around. So we ended up having a big sort of wedge shaped L ruins in each deployment zone, and the smaller ones out in no man's land.
Okay.
There was sort of a nice big clear X shaped firing lanes just through the middle of the board. So I was happy enough with that. Like, my dreadnoughts had plenty of room to move through and to get line of sight on things. Yeah, it turns out that being so lenient with Stuart with the train movement was a bad idea. What he ended up doing was deploying 3/4 of his army behind that big ruin in his deployment zone, where I couldn't target them. He had one unit of like strike marines sort of out in a forest where I could see it, and a rhino that had like 5 strike marines and 5 interceptors.
Yep.
Inside.
That sounds about right.
Yep. So he had a couple of units that if he got first turn, he could sort of make push for the middle objectives. I got first turn though, so I moved up, blew them away straight away. I felt pretty happy about that. It's like, oh yeah, I've killed 3 units my first turn, and he had like 2 interceptors left from the surviving from the rhino. They weren't going to cause me much grief. And everything else, I figured, oh yeah, okay, so he's got to have to poke his nose out of those ruins to either come for the objectives or to do some shooting or psychic at me. That's fine. I can handle that as it comes. But no. Like, if, as I was saying to you earlier in the stream, one of the things that happened was that I discovered that aircraft and ruins like that don't work so well for the player with the aircraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the amount of damage that he can do with just storm bolters and smites is pretty impressive, I gotta say. Just lots of storm bolters, lots of smites, psi cannons. Yeah, it was pretty unreal.
Were all of his purgation squads in Deep Strike, or they were all in
Nope,
that big
they
castle?
were all in that castle.
Huh. Interesting. I really wish I could have watched that game, but
It was something you should ask Stuart about it. I'm sure he'll give you a very different account of it.
So, you lost to Corvus turn 1.
Yes. So I moved out of Corvus on each flank, and sort of ended them up sort of just near the middle objectives. And the plan was, well, next turn I can drop out, their cargo to try to contest those objectives, while the Corvuses move up and try to shoot it. Maybe pick off some guys in the ruins, or do whatever they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, straight away he blew up one of the Corvuses. He was, he was letting me know his thought process as he was doing this. He was mulling this. I was like, oh, I don't know if it's a good idea to blow up these Corvuses right away, because then you're going to get to, deploy the units straight onto the objective because they were right next to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, he was umming and ahhing. It's like, do I have enough firepower to then kill the Corvus and kill the units that are inside the Corvus? And he did.
Yeah. So dropped out their precious cargo, and he never had to roll morale because they just didn't live through it at all. Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's one of the, I mean, your troop choices, they're very cheap, like you said, but like without any storm shields or whatever, like any amount of AP is gonna really, really hurt.
Yeah.
And side cannons are 2 damage weapons, so.
Yeah, he's got so many 2 damage weapons. The worst thing about facing all the shooting from his army is that everything is sort of AP 1, either 0, 1, or 2. Against my Dreadnoughts, this was awful. It meant my Dominus Aegis was worthless this game. The Invuln on my Contemptors, worthless. The Vulcan Pattern Auspicator on the Tech Marine, he had nothing that was flying. No, it was really a good matchup for him, I reckon. And yeah, so that was my turn 1. There was a bit of back and forth, but I still had plenty of units left at that point. He softened up one of my Redemptors because I'd taken Oaths of Moment. I regretted taking Oaths of Moment pretty early on in the game. In the end, it still scored me something like 11 points, so it wasn't that massive a mistake.
Yeah, that's still,
but it's still
really good.
It was tricky trying to get unit. Like I only had about 2 rounds of being able to get units in the center, and I just went for it with Redemptor Dreadnoughts. But unfortunately, that put them way too close to all of his firepower. So yeah, his first turn, he blew up a Corvus. He took all but 2 wounds off a Redemptor, the one that I'd moved up the furthest in the middle. My round 2, I started moving up with the Redemptors. He'd moved up a couple of, I think it was the Purgation units.
Yeah,
was
with
the Psy Cannons. Yeah.
Yep.
So he moved some of them up onto the second level to get more firing lanes. I was able to kill some of them, some but not all of them. And he also had his Grandmaster Dreadnought had poked his nose out of the ruins to also shoot at the Corvus. I decided to, I had clear firing on the Grandmaster Dreadnought. He had the relic that lets him teleport when he gets targeted.
Yeah.
And, I was aware of that, but I figured, he either uses it or he doesn't. Either way, I'm going to get to shoot at him a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I lit him up with one of the Redemptors. He used the relic. He teleported into my backfield. And
Hello. Sorry about that. It looks like we're back. I don't know what happened, but there was a stream hiccup. I've never had this happen. It says we're still live. So, whoops. We're now down to one viewer, but that's okay. That's what happens when the stream goes down. So, end of turn 2. You can't hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, and I can hear you fine. So let's jump back into it. So turn 2, you had moved up. You only got a couple wounds off the Grandmaster. He didn't jump away.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I targeted the Grandmaster. He did teleport. He teleported into my backfield, but I still had line of sight. Like, he just used that as an opportunity to go for my backline.
Right.
But I still had line of sight with 3 Redemptors and a Contemptor. So I just, put everything I had into him, whiffed horribly. I think I only knocked about 4 wounds off him or something when all was said and done. He was... my shooting was crap. He was great at making his saves.
I was just going to ask, yeah. That's the thing about a 4-up invul. Is it's like either...
It was a 3.
Oh, that's right. He used the relic. Yeah. Or...
Yeah.
No, it's a Wisdom of the Prognosticars upgrade called Servant of the Throne, if I remember right. But yeah, it's a once per game 3-up invul. Yeah.
Yep. He used it to great effect. So his Grandmaster was pretty unscathed after all of that shooting. Not that I put everything I had into him, but it's not like I had many other targets at that point for the Redemptors to shoot at. So I don't know what else I would have really done if I'd had my chance to do it differently. So yeah, that was that. His turn 2. That's when it all started to go wrong for me. So we had a badly wounded Contemptor in the middle. Another one that had moved up behind it because I was anticipating that first one dying that turn. I'd moved up I had also moved up the surviving Corvus and gone around behind his ruins to shoot another one of the Purgator quads. So I was trying to remove some of his firepower. Killed a few of them. Didn't manage to take out the whole unit though. His turn 2. He basically, things started to emerge from the ruins and bring the fight to me. He killed all 3 Redemptors that turn. With smites and shooting. Didn't even have to make melee on any of them. He ran his Dreadnought behind my big ruin to where my backfield objective was. Killed the 2 company veterans that are guarding it. And it was a big swing for his favour. He'd taken out my main firepower, and he softened up my. He killed the Corvus that turn as well.
So you've lost both. So, one Corvus each turn. You're down 3 Redemptors.
Yep.
You've got 2 Contemptors left, which are the ones that, as a Grey Knights player, I'm least worried about the Contemptors because the Volkites kind of bounce off.
They do, especially after turn 1. I'm not even in Devastator Doctrine, so they don't have the AP to really make it count, and also the mortal wounds.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's got a chance to save those as well.
I mean, mathematically, you just assume a third of them aren't going to go through. So that I mean, a 33% reduction in your mortal wounds is pretty significant when that's how you do a lot of the damage with those contemptors. Yeah, and just strength 4 shooting, you know.
Yeah. So I was left in a pretty bad spot after there. So I was, but I was still doing okay for my secondaries. Neither of us had managed to sort of take the middle objectives. Like I'd put units on them. He'd put units on them.
Yeah.
There was a bit of back and forth there.
Total bloodbath, like you said, was an absolute bloodbath. Yeah.
Yeah. I did my best. I was trying to kill some of his units, but he still had enough of his firepower left. He had all 3 of his characters were still standing at that stage. And they're all absolute beasts. You know, you got the Grandmaster Dreadnought, Drago, and what is he? Watch Captain or whatever they are.
Brother Captain?
Something like that.
Is that what he had?
Brother Captain. I think a Brother Captain. Yeah.
Huh. I'm gonna actually look it up just because I'm
double check
a little curious.
His list.
Yeah, I don't think he had a. Here, I'll pull up his list right here. I got it. All right, so Prescient Bradley. Oh no, he did. He had a Brother Captain, Grandmaster ran a Nemesis Dreadnought. He had Drago. Yeah, so those were his characters. Drago's an absolute beatstick. The guy is nuts. 3 up invul, 7 wounds, hits on 2s, negative 4 AP, 3 damage, 4 damage if he gets off Empiric Amplification. Yeah. He's
he kept on just buffing the hell out of his guys, with his auras and vortexing me. It was pretty scary.
Yeah, and then he's got purifiers too. So those are gonna do the minimum 3 damage smite basically. Yeah.
Yep. It was pretty brutal. That was my turn 2. The game had turned from sort of both of us kind of being cagey to a complete bloodbath. My turn 3, I tried to pull it back a bit. I sent my captain on the bike off into my back line to deal with the Grandmaster Dreadnought. He was able to take him out.
Wow. I had a mental image of the Empire Strikes Back with the trying to he's just circling this Dreadnought trying to knock it down.
Well, he was actually pretty well equipped to take on a Dreadnought because he had I gave him the Warlord trait that gave him +1 attack, +1 to hit, +1 to wound against characters, and he was wielding a Thunderhammer.
Yeah.
So I just needed to have a little bit of luck to get past his invulns. But I charged him in. I'd softened the Grandmaster as well with a bit of shooting from one of the Contemptors that round as well for the charge. So I was only dealing with something like 6 wounds at that point. And I was able to squeak through enough damage. I got 6 hits, and I think something like 5 wounds. And he failed enough of his saves that he couldn't. He couldn't claw it back with a CP reroll or anything.
Yeah, I've had a few. A few times where you just roll a pocket full of 1s, man.
Yeah. I'd noticed that happening in the previous 2 rounds. So much of my shooting that game just it completely went awry. But I did manage to kill the Grandmaster Dreadnought, took that objective back. What else? Yeah, I still had a couple of veteran units that were trying to hold on to an objective, but at that point, the rest of the Grey Knight army was marching towards them, and things kind of spiraled out of control from there. The game ended after about 3 rounds of play. I was left holding my back objective with a Tech Marine and a Contemptor. And he'd moved up and taken the 2 middle objectives, and while still being able to hold his back objective. In the end, it turned into a pretty close game. Just have a look at the scores.
It just had it up too. Oh no.
See if I can find it
it was 76 Grey Knights to 67 Death Watch. So that's, I mean, yeah, that's like,
yeah. So I did better than him on. Well, actually, I think we did just about as well as each other. He did 1 point better on secondaries than me. So the secondary game was pretty close. I did decent for Oath of Moment. Abhor the Witch, I maxed that out.
yeah.
You always will. Engage didn't do too badly. It was a real struggle, but I did sort of keep units in most quarters for most of the game while I was playing. Yeah, couldn't do it turn 4 or 5 though. Actually, no. Yeah, I got one. Yeah, I got a couple of points for engage on turn 4. Then turn 5, I lost that completely. Yeah, he had to the last, so he nominated his 3 characters for that, that's a pretty smart move on his part. That's really good. It's good double dipping because they're so easy to keep the characters safe. Like you can in that type of army, because you've got so many units to get through before you can even think of touching the characters. So yeah, I knocked 5 points off him by killing the Grandmaster Dreadnought. He did retrieve Octarius data. He managed to the first 2 turns he did it in my table quarters. So the 2 far ones, so he got them out of the way early.
That's
so
a good call.
In his remaining rounds, so yeah, he had no problem doing it for the last 2 rounds, just in his back quarters. And yeah, then engage, because he had more units left standing towards the end of the game than me. He was able to press forward. He had a unit of interceptors in reserve. He brought them in, in turn 3, and they were able to help. And he also had 2 units of servitors in reserve.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he was just bringing them on to get those sneaky engages towards the end of the game.
And rods, yeah.
But towards it, basically it came down to primaries that game. It had been a pretty low scoring game for primaries up until about round 4, and then his round 5 when he took 15 points, that swung the game decisively in his favor. So 9-point loss to me.
That's a really, I mean,
there'd been a couple of rounds rounds 2 and 3 for me. There'd been a couple of sort of things where I'd almost held an objective. If I'd managed to hold 2 when he only had 1, that would have been a 10-point swing in my favor.
Yeah, that could have won me the game by 1 point.
And I would have ended. That could have won me the game. I would have taken it.
That's amazing. So you were undefeated till game 3 of this RTT. You then go up against Stuart Trainer, and then because you lost that game, because you just didn't grab up enough points, He actually ended up coming in fourth, which I thought was interesting, just from the points. So battle points is all, right, in this format? So...
Well, wins and then battle points.
Oh, wins and then battle points.
So,
okay. I got you.
Yeah. So, ironically, if I'd been able to stop Stuart from scoring higher, or if we'd both managed to play more cagely and had a very low scoring game for primaries, like, it only would have taken about 10 points or something, like 10, 15 points less.
Yeah.
And not, Stuart wouldn't have come first, even though he would have, won 3 games. I wouldn't have, neither of us would have come first, regardless of who won.
Oh wow.
Like the winner.
Yeah. So
the winner's consolation prize would have been second place.
I see. If you had like switched it, crazy. So like it was pretty close. It was a pretty close tournament, all told. Then because like there's only between first
Patrick
and
Burns,
second. Yeah, is only a 5
6
point.
points.
Sorry. Yeah. So
6 points.
6 points. Yeah. And then the third place actually scored the same amount of points as the first place, but had 2 losses. Or
one loss. Yeah.
1 loss. So then, so how did Patrick Burn? What's RPs? Here, I'm gonna switch to the browser so folks can actually see what I'm talking about here. So what are RPs then?
RPs are, so you get 2 points for a win, 0 points for a loss, 1 point for a draw. So for a 3-game tournament, 6 points means 3 wins.
Oh.
4 points means 2 wins, 1 loss.
So Patrick Burns and Stuart Traynor were both undefeated, and that's why Patrick Burns came in second. Okay. Makes a little more sense. I was like, what is going on? That doesn't make any sense. How do you end up... Wow, interesting. Was it just because there were 12 players that you ended up with 2 undefeated?
Something like... It was supposed to be 20 this day. But yeah, we had a few last-minute dropouts due to,
life, COVID. Yeah.
Due to COVID. It was all COVID.
Yeah, I believe it. I saw like your Rat Tournament 5 and then had like 20 something players in it, and then was it Geelong open? Geelong? Yeah, that had like almost 40 players. And that was a GT just by its own manifestation of being that many players. So very cool. So your takeaways for playing against Stuart. I've got an interesting question for you about the terrain. So you said if you hadn't let him or hadn't agreed, I guess maybe that's a better way of actually phrasing that. If you hadn't agreed to redo all the terrain, you think that you would have been in an advantageous spot because like he said, if we use this terrain, I'm just going to get shot. So with player optimized terrain, which I've never used, aren't you required to put out the terrain every single game? Or can you walk up and say, no, no, this is fine, let's just start playing?
Yeah, oh, well, look, the terrain was pretty similar. Every table, it was the same sort of bunch of ruins in a pretty familiar configuration. I mean, they could get moved around a bit, just by players before, the game due to agreement, mutual agreement.
Okay.
Whatever they thought works best.
Yeah, I mean,
but this was just another case of this. It wasn't, really exceptional. It was just a noteworthy thing that influenced the outcome of the game. And because if the ruins had been on a different orientation, he would not have been able to hide so much of his army turn 1. That really would have made things harder for him. Because I've got much more range turn 1.
Yeah, everything
And yeah.
in the Grey Knight Codex is 24 inches. Effectively. Like, yeah, there's lads cannons and stuff, but like, effectively, the firepower is 24 inches. And you can get that out to 30 in tight of convergence with some of the guns, but not all of them. So you're still really looking at mostly a shooting threat range of 24 inches. So
yeah, and a lot of the and the psychic as well. It's like the
Mhm.
smites are 18. So
yeah,
yeah, I had the range advantage, and I had a lot of firepower. I also had a bit of mobility advantage with the Corvuses. So yeah, it would have been a much more uphill battle. Um, but yeah, that's my takeaway. Yeah, the last tournament that I saw him at, I think Rat Trader 5, he was running the Dreadnought list. So I hadn't seen this infantry heavy version.
yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know if I interviewed him after Rat Trader 5 or another one, but he has run this all infantry list before. In fact, I was giving him a little shit because I was like, "Oh, you had to take one Dreadnought, huh? Like you couldn't just stick with all infantry." The Grandmaster Dreadnought is too good. It gives rerolls, especially in Prescient Brethren. It can reroll ones to hit and ones to wound. It's hitting on 2s. Its melee profile
Yeah.
is nuts. It's got great shooting. That 3-up invul once a game is, as you saw, clutch. Like
all those things. It is great value.
Yeah.
You'd be crazy not to take one.
At least one.
Yeah, I don't see the downside to taking one. Even in an all infantry list.
Yeah. I mean, he had one Rhino too, so it wasn't all infantry.
Yeah.
How did that Hunter Killer missile do? I saw he he bought it because he had 5 points left over. So funny when people do that.
Never got a chance to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Rhino went pop.
Oh, that's right.
Rhino went pop turn 1.
That's right. So terrain, you probably wouldn't have done Oath. Did he take Purifying Ritual?
No.
Do you know?
He didn't. That surprised me because that's one that I expect to see from that kind of list.
Yeah.
But he was pretty confident with his his backfield sort of and movement shenanigans. So I think Rod, Engage, he got a lot of points out of that.
And he got to the last. So
and to the last, they all worked really well for him. I think he made the right choices for his secondaries.
Yeah, Battle Lines is hard. Like you said, right? Banners is good on 6 objective missions, and so is Purifying Ritual. On a 4 objective map, you can kind of play cagey and then kind of try to score a lot towards the end, but you still need to be getting a few points every single round. And when you said everything's so killy, like anything you go to do Purifying Ritual with against these 2 armies is going to die. So, and then if you put things on objectives, then now they can get charged, which gives you potential free movement. And yeah, I can see how he decided against Purifying Ritual. But so I mean, all in all, great. Sounds like you had great opponents. You had some great games. How did that Drukhari player feel when you were just kind of running circles around him?
Oh, I think he had fun with it. He got some. He didn't manage to kill that much of my list. When all was said and done, I mean, he ran some. He got to sort of make moves on some of my objectives with squads of witches. So he kind of got in his licks there, but I think he looked at my list and then looked at his list and then went, uh-oh, and tried to while we stand, or whatever it's called now.
Yeah,
But
to
yeah,
the
it
last.
just didn't work out for him. Yeah, to the last. It just didn't work out for him in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good sport about it. You know. So yeah, the Drakari, I think they're still one of the top armies in the meta, or at least for a couple of months now. Or, maybe a month or so. I guess watch out for the new codexes and see where the metagame goes.
Yeah. Man, hold on. I'm scrolling through your other games here. All right, Craft World. I mean, not your other games, but other players. Sororitas. No way. Did you really? Imperial Fists, huh? You sure they were playing Imperial Fists? What was your opponent's name? Oh, there it is. All right, he's at the very bottom. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Librarian and Phobos armor, captain and some incursors, infiltrators, tactical squads.
Yeah, he had a lot of infiltrating units. It was it did not work out well for him.
Yeah. Cannot believe the Hammerfall bunker. So you have to take a fortification detachment, which costs you 1 CP, and then it is 175 points. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had 175 points to play with in my list, I'd probably take a Whirlwind Scorpius.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
It's one of the tech choices I'd possibly consider replacing a Corvus with, because it gives some of the same reach that a Corvus does, and it gives you something to put in your backfield to sit on an objective and still be able to dig out those annoying little units hiding in ruins.
Yeah, and you can make something fight last, which is pretty big right before you charge, like Incubi.
Yeah.
Where if they make you fight last and you make them fight last, then you get to fight first because you charged. Oh man. Actually, oh man, isn't that how that works? I think so. I wish that I gotta read up on this. Stuff drives me crazy how hard it is to understand sometimes.
They basically simplified it so that stuff cancels each other out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. So if both of them gets fight last, then it goes back to the attacking player because they charged.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay. All right. That's easier then to understand. Cool. Well, I know it's almost 3 a.m. there. You're probably tired unless you are buzzed up on caffeine.
I gotta sleep. Gotta sleep sometime.
Yeah, I feel you. So I'm gonna let you go here. I see we have had a couple viewers this entire time, even after we lost connection. So I see you, and thank you for staying throughout this whole thing. Thank you for coming back after my internet hiccup. That was really bizarre. And thank you, Terence, for staying up so late right after this. Are you hitting up any other tournaments soon?
Yeah, I've got a couple coming up next month. So I've got the Vic Masters coming up. That one's the Victorian Masters. So that one's an invite only. I got an invite to that because I'm high enough ranked on down under pairings. And that one, if I place well enough, if I place in the top 3, I'll get an invite to the Australian Masters. So looking forward to that.
Very cool.
And there's also another 1 day practice tournament about 2 weeks before that I'll be hitting up.
Are you still planning on bringing this army, this exact list, or pretty close?
pretty close, probably. There's a few little tweaks. I might change some of the relics, some of the ward traits, but I liked how the units performed. No real complaints there. I'm not going to do anything radical, like I was talking about, swapping in a whirlwind or anything. Not just yet.
Not just yet. Yeah. Well, we'll see when Tau comes
I'll
out.
wait. Yeah, I'll see where the meta goes. It might be time to put the Dreadnoughts back on the shelf for a bit. We'll have to see.
Well, the Army of Renown looks super, super fun. I've only ever played one in a 1,000-point game, which doesn't really count to me because the meta of a 1,000-point game is just so vastly different than a 2,000-point game. But yeah, Michael Costello, I have an interview with him, and then Jonathan Partridge. They both placed pretty well at the London Grand Tournament with their Army of Renown. If you have the time, you should check that out. Really good conversations. So
yeah, I'll be sure to check those out.
Yeah, if you got the time. I mean, if you're doing those hour-and-a-half long drives, you might as well download my interviews and just listen to them like podcasts, right? All right. I'll stop hyping up my own content. Thank you again so much. And for all of you still there, I think it's one active viewer still and one bot. Thank you both for showing up. And I will catch you all next time.